welcome back to the Between You and Me podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed the very first episode of this portion of episodes. Every time I think of it, I don't know why, I have like a level of anxiety, because when I was editing it, I was like, oh God, like, is this just like a really sad kind of cry for help? ? I don't know. I hope it was relatable. I did get a nice comment on YouTube, so I appreciate that. But yeah, we're switching it up this week and we're doing a What Would I Do episode, which are my very favorite episodes to record because I really feel like I get in tune with the most articulate and best advice giving version of myself in these episodes. Because it really comes off the dome. I found these questions from my Instagram DMs and my Instagram stories where I ask you guys to give me any questions or situations that are going on in your life for me to answer and then give my advice on what I would do in these situations. So I wrote them down like a week ago and I can't remember what they are anymore. So we're really going to get my, best off the cuff advice for these things, a lot of which are situations that you guys are going through right now in your life. So has to do with your 20s, has to do with relationships, has to do with friendships, which are my favorite. They're my favorite to discuss. So we're going to get right into it. If you guys want to be a part of more What Would I Do episodes, you can go to @BetweenYouAndMe podcast on Instagram, @BetweenYouAndMe pod on YouTube to watch the episodes, and send me questions at questionsbetweenyouandme@gmail.com. So let's get right into the first one, shall we? Okay, so the very first few are just like short little questions with not a lot of context, and then the other ones are longer DMs, and I actually didn't get any of them through email, so I don't know why I created that email. No one's really messaging me since like the last portion of my season on there, so don't forget about that, guys. I always try to check it before I plan my episodes just in case there's something that I want to like talk about relating to a question in an episode. But anyways, numero uno is facing mean girl attitudes at work. There's a little bit of context. We're all 25 plus and yet it still happens. This is an icky one because it bothers me when I hear like, oh, you guys are in this grown ass age of being 25 years and older, and we're still struggling with a high school mentality and a high school bully energy. Personally, I have not experienced that myself. I work and I do interact with a lot of my own coworkers, and they're primarily women, which you would expect, like, okay, this is a place where it can get catty, potentially. This is a place where drama can happen. And yeah, there have been a couple little questionable things, but for the most part, I'm one of the youngest people employed there, and everyone else is in their 30s and above. So I feel like given that age range, there is a lot of maturity, and just like people have their own lives, they have their own business to attend to, they have their own shit going on. Like, I'm sure whatever's going on in their work life is not as important, big, or, significant as maybe the struggles, the challenges of their day-to-day life. A lot of them have kids, a lot of them have husbands, it seems like that's a lot more important. Considering your situation, when you're in your like mid to late 20s, you can be in a lot of different eras of your life. And one of those eras might be the boring era. And I want not to shame myself, but I might be in the boring era a little bit. I'm attempting to get myself out of it. But there was a point in time where not a lot was happening. I don't have a lot of exterior like friendship issues or relationship drama. It's very steady. The same friend group for many, many years. The same relationship for a few years. There's a lot of calmness, which I am happy for. And when people are in this era of their life, I feel like sometimes they can just be craving a little bit of drama. They can be craving a little bit of, excitement in a weird, selfish way. So they start this bickering, they start this attitude, they start finding reasons why they don't like people, giving energy in places where they don't need to give it. So if you're experiencing that kind of mean girl attitude at work, it could be that one reason of like, hey, this person just doesn't have a lot going on in their lives. And if it were me in that situation, I feel like I'd almost pity that type of person. Like, I know I just called myself like in the boring area, but obviously I don't do the drama. I don't bring the drama to work. I don't start the problems. I don't, I've got no involvement in any issues. I don't have a reason to. So technically, no, I'm not talking bad about the boring era. I'm talking more so of what the boring era can do to you if you're not careful. It can really make you do the most for no reason and kind of be a bother. So yeah, I would pity the person who is finding this excitement and entertainment in work drama, because chances are their lives at home are boring and lackluster, and they're not content in simplicity. They want a little extra drama. Option number 2 is that they're just that type of person that hasn't matured. They have this high school mentality. They've never grown out of the fact that, hey, you don't need to like everything about everyone, especially the people that you work with. And you don't need to point out everything that you dislike. If there's a bigger issue, if there's like something, that you need to go over to HR for, like, that's obviously a different story. If there's like power imbalances and issues that are going on in your work life in that realm, I wouldn't classify that as a drama. I'd be like, okay, that's like a bigger issue. But little petty things, attitude to your coworkers, talking behind their back, honestly, same as option number 1, I would pity that person. I'd be like, you have not grown. You have not gotten to an era of your life where you can realize that this is not serving you or any other person in your workspace. And it's, at the end of the day, embarrassing. So I personally would remove myself from anyone who's contributing to that, like, atmosphere and adding to the drama, adding to the BS. Like, yeah, you can have a comment here and there. You can like give your perspective. You can understand if someone else is angry at someone. But like, as soon as it becomes something that's like blown out of proportion, and if you told it to one of your other friends who doesn't work with you and they were like, what? Like, what? Why is this a big deal? Like, why is this something that anyone gives a shit about? Then you can take a step back and be like, okay, this isn't for me. This is not something that I should be a part of. Don't fall into the trap of the drama and the excitement of it all, because I mean, yeah, it can be a little side entertainment, like watching a reality show, but as soon as you become a main character in it, like, you've lost the plot completely. Like, don't fall into that trap. If it's more so someone who's coming to you and giving you the attitude and like bullying you, I'd start signing into Indeed and finding a new job. Because fuck that. If it's not something that you can go and, tell someone about and be like, hey, this person's not treating me fairly in this work environment. I don't like it. It needs to change. If you can't and don't have the freedom to do that, which I know in a lot of situations you don't, because it's maybe someone in a higher position than you, like someone who might even have control over your job, then life's too short. Find another job. And that's what I would do. All right. That was a good one. Nice and quick and sweet. Okay. So this one really has no context, so it might be a little interesting to discuss. But the question is, what would you do if you had to choose between your boyfriend or your best friend? You know what? Without context, this is probably the hardest question in the world. And I would choose both / neither. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't even make that an option of a decision to be made. Now, I'm going to give it some imaginary context. Let's say they don't like each other, and it's one of those situations where there's conflict and you're in the middle. That's a really difficult position to be in. And what I would do is reflect on the type of person your boyfriend is and the type of person your best friend is. sometimes we can get into these icky, sticky situations where we are long-term best friends with people who don't actually have our best interest in mind. And I've seen it in a lot of my friendships, not like I've had those friendships, but I've had friends who had friends like that. And I can see it in third perspective from a bird's eye view and be like, okay, she's not really looking out for you. Like, she doesn't actually care for you as much as you care for her. And sometimes that can bleed into your friend being a little bit like negative towards your relationship, a little bit pointing out the worst of them. And usually that happens when your best friend is single, because they want you all to themselves. They want all your attention. They don't want you to be having a happy relationship that they're not a part of. You know, it comes from a lot of envy and jealousy. So if that's your situation, you really need to step back and think about what position your friend is in, how they have treated you in your friendship. Do they point out all these negative things about your partner and never consider like, oh, you know, maybe there's other sides to it. Maybe there's other side of the coin that they're not focused on. You know, you never want a friend who's continuously pointing out the bad in your relationship. And this is not an overall blanket statement, because there's also the other side of this where you could be in a really poor relationship and you're also completely blind to it, and your friend who has stuck by you through thick and thin can see straight through it because they don't have the rose-colored glasses on, and they're trying over and over and over again to help you see that. And maybe that's the position that you're in, and you're sitting there being like, fuck, like I have to choose between my best friend and my boyfriend. So in both of these situations, it really comes down to, like I said, reflecting on the type of people that you have in your life, given your boyfriend and your best friend, and kind of cracking it down to okay, here's a good rule of thumb actually. Who would I rather be like? Which one of their personalities, characteristics, who they are as a person, do you admire the most? And which one do you feel like you wouldn't really want to be anything like? Sometimes we're friends with people, or we're in relationships with people that we don't really like that much. We don't really like their personality. We don't like their characteristics. We don't like what they bring to the table. Yet time and loyalty kind of takes over, and you've been in a 10-year friendship, or you've been in a 5-year relationship, and you're like, yeah, like I'm so used to this person being around that you don't really even start to question if they are a good person, or if you admire them, or if you like them a lot. So that could be a good thing to reflect on and understand, to try and like take yourself out of the girlfriend position or the best friend position and really look at it in that lens. Then you'll be able to kind of consider, okay, what's the conflict here? What's the issue between these two people and the reason why I have to choose between them? And then you'll understand which is the best decision to go with. Are you actually just in a shitty relationship, or are you actually just in a shitty friendship? Or, plot twist, they both suck. That's always an option too. They both freaking suck, and you need to take a step back and realize that both of them need to be out of your life. I don't know. This is a hard one. Like I said, there was such little context, but I think breaking it down in that way is probably what I would do. I'm going to take a sip of water, and this is your sign to take a sip of water too. Okay, stay hydrated. I've got my black. That's crazy. I've got my black Owala. This next one also very little context. The only thing that I got was feeling stuck in life. I feel like my last podcast episode kind of had that essence a little bit. More feeling behind in life, but I guess you could almost talk about these subjects hand in hand. When you feel behind, something's keeping you there, which, you know, equates to feeling stuck in life. So I guess this is a segue. You can go listen to that episode, although I don't give too much advice. It's more so a personal challenge episode. I give a little bit of advice at the end, but to lean more into the advice part of this, I think we need to think about why it is that you feel stuck and really investigate that. Give yourself time and space to maybe even sit with your journal, go through your thoughts, figure out why the element and the idea of being stuck is even a feeling, a thought, an emotion, and find out what area it is in your life that you need to get out of your comfort zone more, or what you need to change, because feeling stuck is a call for change. I feel like to adjust something in your life that's clearly not working. It's the same as when you have a plan, like a workout plan, and you want to get from point A to point B, and your goal is to, let's say, build muscle and lose 10 pounds, for example. If you've been at it for 6 months and you've seen zero progress, you're going to backtrack and say, what am I doing that's not working? And I think that's the same thing that you have to do in your life. And also, I'm speaking to myself right now because I had a moment like in the past few days where I was like, I'm feeling a little bit like, I have a very steady life at the moment, but it's like I want it to progress in a different way, and I want it to feel more like an upwards climb versus like a straight, steady stream. And it's all about what you want and what your end goal is, like I said, and everyone's can be different. So going back to point A, reflecting on it, and then reflecting on point B, your goal, and retracing your steps of where you have been in the past year, let's say, like how you can improve what it is that you have been doing, how you've been leading your life. It could be a matter of changing your mentality. It could be a matter of changing your daily habits, what you do in the morning to get started in the day. You feel like you're not productive enough. You feel like you're not achieving your goals fast enough. You feel like you're kind of stuck in terms of not being able to find a relationship or not being able to find that perfect career. There's so many elements of life that you could be feeling stuck in. But to play devil's advocate on this question as well, I feel like there's also an element of are we just being so freaking hard on ourselves too? Are we not feeling like a sense of gratitude for what we have? Are we always continuously thinking, I need more? I'm not where I need to be yet. I have not figured out my life yet. These are also things you can sit in your journal and reflect about. Consider okay, what have you achieved? What are you proud of? What is it that you put, an intention towards at the beginning of the year and you actually have done so far? And then how can we do better? Don't ignore the progress that you might have made. Don't feel bad for not achieving everything that you wanted to achieve. Consider that you might not be completely locked in the mud and stuck. You might just be moving a little slowly. So I guess to answer the question, I would do a lot of reflecting, and I actually feel like I do need to do a lot of reflecting at this era of my life, and then a little bit more planning. I feel like I've been the type of person to cruise through life. I've probably talked about this in a lot of episodes, but I've been a very casual life cruiser and just been things are going to work out for me. Everything's fine. Let's just go with the flow. Let's think about the current moment. Let's do this, do that. Although my mind is racing in 10,000 different ways, it's I don't end up planning for a far future, but I end up planning for close current things that are happening to avoid the fear of the future, I guess, because my mind is so So reflection, planning, and considering the other side of the coin, which is that you could just be being very hard on yourself, and to try to not be as hard on yourself. Okay, cool. So that's what I would do. Now, these are the longer ones. So let's get into some of these. Hopefully this is not the longest episode ever because I actually have a few of these. Okay, number 1. My boyfriend doesn't drink often, but when he does, even just a little, his vibe totally changes. He starts pushing boundaries, and when he drinks more, he gets mad or snaps at me, then apologizes, then gets mad again. I don't want to tell him not to drink or stop hanging with his friends, but it's starting to make me anxious. Should I just give him space when it happens or say something? Okay. This might be a hard one to hear, girl. Get so far away from this man. Like, I'm so serious. Alcohol is such a dangerous substance. People don't talk about it enough, genuinely. I mean, maybe they do, but I don't hear about it enough. How literally impactful it can be on your life, whether it is people close to you who drink a lot or yourself who drinks a lot. And because it's such a casual substance to abuse, people have like acclimated to the fact that it will literally change your personality. It can make you angry, it can make you sad, it can make you cry, it can make you this, it can make you that. And, you know, when you're a teenager and you're, you know, dabbling in a little bit of drinking here, a little bit of partying there, things are not as serious in your mind. But as soon as you become older, you develop a little bit, your frontal lobe starts to develop, or it has completely developed. You're starting to realize like, hey, like I don't need to be binge drinking every weekend, and I don't need to be surrounding myself with people who do as well. And I can start to see clearer like signs of alcohol abuse and like undercover alcoholics like left and freaking right. It's crazy. Like only probably in the past couple years have I been like way more aware. And that also comes with the fact that I met my boyfriend who is really will turn down a drink almost 9 out of 10 times. And at first I was like, damn, he's not trying to like have fun, like have a couple glasses of wine with me or like whatever when we go out, like get a little tipsy crazy. But you know what? I admire it to such a high degree when I, you know, throughout the years that I've been with him, because it takes a lot of self-respect to be like, I'm good. I mean, not self-respect per se, but like just discipline. Just be like, no, I'm okay. Like, I don't really need that. So my point of all of that is that I think when you start to become aware that abusing, damn it, that word does not sound right when I say it, abusing. Okay. When you start to become aware that abusing alcohol is just not a normal and should not be a normal thing in people's lives, then you start to be a little bit more aware of the people around you and a bit more selective of who you choose to be around you as well. I'm not trying to sound like a mom and be like, oh my God, don't drink, don't have fun, don't do anything. Because I drink when I have my opportunities where I want to, but then I'll also be like, okay, no, I'm good. I'm going to have one glass, or like, I'm just not going to drink tonight, or, you know, whatever. Like I'm a very balanced drinker, but regardless, you start to be more selective, right? And it's a good thing to notice and be like, okay, I don't like the type of person my boyfriend turns into when he drinks. I don't like the way he treats me. I don't like how his energy turns into this aggressive like person that I don't know, that I don't recognize when he's sober. It's also a gateway into like really toxic elements in a relationship, to be having a lot of arguments when you're drinking. Like when I was younger and I was in those like drinking eras of my life, I would argue so much with whoever I was around. And it was because there was, first of all, no control over how much alcohol I was consuming. I was like young and dumb and stupid and like just drinking to drink. And I also just had way less emotional maturity and regulation. And when you're drinking, you like lose control of yourself. So imagine if you have like the bare minimum emotional regulation in your life and then you decide to drink. That's gone. It's at 0. It's at -50 now instead. And it really shows you the type of emotion that you can't like hide, basically. Yeah, I used to argue all the time with my friends. If there was one little thing that bothered me with like past relationships when we were drinking, like, oh my God, so bad. Which is like such a blessing now that I will never run into a situation where me and my boyfriend are both, I mean, it's probably gonna be totally rare that happens, that we're both like tipsy or whatever. But I also don't think there would be much to argue about regardless. But sometimes there's not even a reason to argue and it happens. Okay, so I'm talking too much. But basically, like I said at the beginning, do not, like, be selective about the people that are in your life, especially when you feel like there's a big issue. Someone's pushing your boundaries, someone's disrespecting you, someone's causing problems. And yeah, you can say, oh, but it's only when they drink. But it's their decision to drink. They're choosing to do that. So by choosing to do that, they're making it okay and allowing the possibility of all of this to happen to you, especially if you've brought it up before. You said, should I give him space when it happens or say something? I think you should give him space, a lot of space, and never talk to him again. Give him the most space you possibly can, okay? Because that's what I would do. Okay, next one. Hey, I'm 27, just moved from Boston to NC, North Carolina maybe? Yeah, I think so. For my husband's job, and kept my remote role, which I'm super grateful for. But honestly, I've been feeling really off. I work long hours and barely talk to anyone all day except on Zoom. I haven't made any friends here yet, and it's starting to feel really isolating. I love being with my husband. We're newly married, but I'm struggling to feel like myself lately. Not sure what to do to feel better or more grounded. Do you have any tips? This is like my worst nightmare. I don't know why the feeling of like moving somewhere where you don't know anyone in your adult life is so scary to me. Like, I've moved to a lot of places in my young teenage years, because like I moved to different freaking continents, countries, cities, like in all within like 15 years of my life. So that being scary, but then also being pushed into like a new middle school, high school, whatever it is, and having the opportunity to make friends and to connect with people, let alone being 20 something years old and moving into a city where majority of your time you're by yourself, you're living on your own, you're working from home. Like, these are all very isolating situations and circumstances to be in. So I completely understand, and you're very, very valid in your reason of feeling this way. But I guess if I were to give some tips on how to better handle the situation, I would say rule number one always is to communicate this to your partner, because there's nothing worse than trying to put on a happy face and be like, yeah, I'm having a great time, because you want to support your partner, your husband, and be like, yes, he needed this move for his career. I'm being the good wife in following him and helping support his lifestyle, his new job, and all of that. You can still be a supportive partner. You made the move already. You are a supportive partner, point blank, actually. But then also have your doubts, your feelings of isolation, your feelings of sadness at the same time. That doesn't mean that you're not a supportive partner. So I feel like communicating this is number one. Don't make it out to seem obviously like you are heartbroken, shattered, you hate this decision. Like, don't communicate in that way. Just say, hey, like, this is how I'm feeling, and this is the honest truth, and I want you to know that, because I don't want to be pretending like I'm loving this transition in my life when I don't actually love it. So that's step one, and that's probably what I would do first. I think it just gives the opportunity for there to be like a lot of honesty and not any like hiding or pretending. And then also just opening up the door to like, hey, maybe there can be adjustments made in the future. Obviously, you're going to give it your best shot of figuring it out, which I'll get into, like how I would probably try to feel less isolated in this situation. But, in the future, maybe it's not where we're meant to be. Maybe it's not the perfect job or the perfect opportunity or situation to be in. And life is not set in stone. You have, I'm sure, options, Even when it comes to your career, maybe transitioning to a job that is not remote would do you one step towards making friends, getting out there, feeling like you're more a part of a community. Other things that I would potentially do to help myself not feel this type of isolation is, 1, have your friends from your hometown or wherever you used to live come and visit you so you can go out, explore, feel like you want to go meet new people when you go out to a new restaurant, when you go out on a night in the town, go to a bar. When you're with people you feel comfortable, you will feel more open to exploring and to be like, okay, let me give this place a chance. Let me, try and meet new people. Because at the end of the day, I feel like I could move anywhere in the world if I had all my friends, all my family. Maybe not anywhere, but like any place that I would be currently like nervous to go to because I know nothing about it and it's like a really small town, for example, I would do it knowing that I had people by my side that I would feel comfortable around, right? It's the idea of like you don't feel comfy, you don't know anyone, you feel isolated. So doing that might be a good first step. Signing up for classes, exercise classes, any type of extracurricular thing that you can possibly do would be really great. Run club, I've been hearing a lot about. I feel like I've talked about that before. A Pilates, a yoga class. If it's not exercise that you're into, maybe a freaking book club. I actually heard something about people talking about how they go onto Facebook and they look up their town. It's very millennial, but like I'm sure it works. They find like, I literally saw, I feel like I've said this before, but I don't know if I've said it to like a person or if I've talked about it on the podcast, but I literally saw a drum circle of like all like middle-aged women when I was in Florida, and I was like my last night, and I was like walking down the beach with my boyfriend, and I'm like, this is the most magical thing ever. When I'm that age, I'm getting on Facebook and I'm finding a drum circle because that's so fun. So like literally go out of your comfort zone, do stupid shit like finding a drum circle. Not stupid, sorry, just like interesting things, because why not? You have the opportunity to meet people. That might not be your vibe, but you could try it. I think be adventurous. Get out of your comfort zone and do stuff that is weird, because why not? You have the opportunity, and that's probably what I would do. Okay, cool. Last one. I've been dating my best friend. Sorry. You can tell I've been talking for too long because I'm jumbling my words now, but I've been dating my boyfriend for a bit now. We're both 21 and I love him, but lately I've been second guessing things. I deal with anxiety and tend to overthink, but I've started noticing how hard it is to have real conversations with him. Even when we talk daily, we're long distance sometimes, he gives super short answers and never really keeps things going. It makes me feel like maybe we're not clicking the way I thought. Even though I've brought it up and he said he's just not great with words, he's way more chatty with other people, so I keep wondering if it's just me. I don't know if I'm overthinking it or if this is something more. Just feeling stuck and unsure and don't know what to do. Okay. This is a really good question. I have so many episodes. I'm going to start remembering the numbers. I actually forgot to say this in the last episode, but I started numbering my episodes now because I feel like it's just going to be easier to address them. This is episode 76, I believe. Yeah, episode 76. But back in like maybe the 50s, there is an episode where I talk about relationship anxiety in one of them. And this is very much, at least what I'm understanding of it, a relationship anxiety situation. It seems to be a little bit of an avoidant and anxious attachment, which is my specialty, guys. I feel like I have only ever experienced and or heard of the people around me, like my friends in relationships and stuff, having that anxious and avoidant dynamic. And it comes in so many different levels. Like there's an extreme version and there's a slight version and there is a medium version of it. So this to me is giving avoidant, anxious, medium to a lot. Okay? Because you guys have been dating for a while, right? And the feeling of second guessing things and anxiety and overthinking already shows that you have this anxious attachment, and you're now starting to question and be like, oh, am I being treated correctly? Is he the right person for me? Do we have the same connection that we used to? And a lot of the time what this is telling me, sorry, I feel like I'm talking like a therapist, but what this is telling me is that there's something that I don't know right now that has maybe occurred in your relationship that's causing this to happen. I mean, you never specifically said that the relationship used to be very connected and happy and XYZ, but I am insinuating, because a lot of relationships start that way. Because like, why else would you want to be with a person? I'm sure you wouldn't start dating someone to receive like one word answers from them. So considering that there might have been this dip in like effort on his part and this like heightened anxiety on your part, it feels like something might have occurred in the relationship. Arguments, trust issues, lack of communication, conflict that has changed the way that you guys have shown up in your relationship. Now, from my experience, and I don't want to be an avoidant attachment hater, but deep in my core, I kind of am. It tends to be that the avoidant person found something uncomfortable in the relationship. They found something that made them upset or angry or bothered them. And rather than communicating it to you, they started to hold resentment, keep things like bubbled up inside. And then if it's a repeated pattern, let's say if it's like you getting angry over little things or getting angry over asking him to text you, for example, or something like that. The more and more it happens and the more that he doesn't communicate it to you, the more avoidant he's going to get, because the more emotion he's trying to suppress, basically, which sometimes either ends in that person leaving altogether or that person blowing up and being like, this is why I'm angry. You've done this 10 times and you've da-da-da-da. But at the end of the day, it is their responsibility to be telling you the things that bother them the same way that you're doing it. That's not to say that you're perfect and that, this analogy that I'm bringing up of you, like getting angry over certain things or communicating certain things that bother you is the perfect and right way. But it is to say that, that person has a responsibility to tell you what's going on in their minds. So reflect on that. Reflect on the fact that, okay, something might have happened that has created this transition. If it's something that you are in control over, something that you can help, then I'd start with focusing on me and being like, okay, where can I improve? And let me start making those adjustments as a partner, slowly but surely in myself, while also obviously communicating and being like, hey, like if there's anything that's bothering you, like I want you to feel comfortable to tell me. I want you to know that I'm not here trying to get angry at you 24/7 or upset at, what's going on in our relationship. I want to be able to work through it with you. Open up the door and say, hey, let's work things out together. Let's not just keep going in this really like downward spiral of not feeling connected and not feeling happy with each other. As soon as you kind of lay that out and be like, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and then you're also continuously trying to improve on things that you feel like you can improve on, then you can reflect on the relationship with a little bit of clear eyes and a little more fairly and be like, okay, you know what? The effort is still not there on his side. I am looking at it from a lens of, okay, anxious and avoidant. Everyone has their own traumas. Everyone has things that has caused them to think this way or feel this way. But if you're still feeling this overwhelming anxiety, and if you still don't feel relief, you don't feel safety in the relationship, these are all such core things that you need. If you've put your effort into healing that within your relationship, within yourself, and the other person is not giving you that, their actions are staying the same, they're not changing, they're not going in the right direction, then I do think that I would step out of the relationship. I would be like, okay, you know what? Sometimes the anxious and avoidant dynamic is too much. And people talk about that a lot. They either say like, stay away from anxious and avoidant styles, like attachment styles. This is horrible. Like you'll hate your life. It'll be terrible. Or they talk about, no, it can work. Like anxious and avoidant can work. Like keep trying, keep pushing. But no one talks about like, you don't know. You never know. It really comes down to the type of person you are. Just because you're an avoidant doesn't mean you're like every other avoidant. Just because you're an anxious doesn't mean you're like every other anxious. So depending on the person that you're with, it will work or it won't work. And you don't know that yet. And you just need to give it a try. Give it your best shot with a new like clear slate. Or step away. Because one thing that I know about the anxious and avoidant dynamic, if it's going in a downward spiral and it's not getting better, you're not seeing any kind of improvement, it will literally suck the life out of you. If you're an extremely anxious person like me, it will literally be, I'm not kidding you, your demise. And that's not even dramatic. Like, I've experienced the most painful anxious and avoidant dynamics in my life, and in friendships too, relationships, like all of them. And stepping out of them is like a breath of fresh air when you've put so much effort into trying to get it to work. Yes, you might feel pain of the relationship ending, but there will be a part of you that's like, oh my God, I'm safe. Like I'm not relying on this person anymore. I can feel like I'm not pulling teeth when I need to communicate with this person. I don't know. That's what I would do. This is just like a hard one because I don't know where the issue lies. So I can't like give my 2 cents on that. But I do feel like it would be beneficial to go and listen to some of my relationship anxiety and or episodes where I've talked about like anxious and avoidant dynamic. I'll put it in the description actually because I need to remember those podcast episodes so that you guys can refer to them if you haven't listened to them yet. But yeah, that's what I would do for all of these situations. I hope it didn't look weird. I'm just realizing now that like my freaking baggy jeans are scrunched all the way up here and I might look like I'm wearing a diaper a little bit, but apologies. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Felt like it flew by. It was great. I really enjoyed them, the What Would I Do episodes. So I hope you guys do too. Don't forget to go and subscribe at Between You and Me Pod. And then also follow the Instagram at Between You and Me Podcast. I love you guys. Bye.